From the studios of Tucson Business RadioX, recorded in the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway, you are now listening to The Mark Bishop Show. And now here's your host, Mark Bishop.
And welcome to another Mark Bishop Show on Business RadioX. Now, you know, folks, nearly 60% of parents say COVID-19 has increased their interest in understanding genetic health. And a company called Ancestry Health is empowering moms to take care of family health with new consumer genetics technology. Now, Sarah South, Ph.D. and Vice President of Laboratory Sciences at AncestryDNA, is both a mom and a scientist who is deeply committed to exploring how genetic data helps real families manage their own health. So, welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Mark. Happy to be on the show.
Well, a recent survey from Ancestry, the global leader in family history and consumer genomics, found that nearly 60% of parents say that the COVID-19 pandemic has increased their interest in understanding their genetic health. What's your take on this, Sarah? Why is this so?
Well, I think that with COVID, we've just understood how important it is to be proactive about our health, taking action into our own hands to keep ourselves healthy and to keep our family members healthy. And it's not just about COVID. It's about many things that can be prevented, including the conditions that we cover on Ancestry Health. So again, not necessarily related to COVID, but if you know that you have an increased risk factor for a number of conditions, but you take preventative action ahead of time, such as regular screenings or medications, and prevent yourself from becoming sick, you're more available to yourself and to your family.
Well, also, I guess being equipped with the knowledge of genetic health and family health history, it can help increase mom's confidence in important decision-making about her own and her family's health. And with back-to-school season underway, their own and their children's health has got to be top of mind.
It's absolutely top of mind. And that's why it's such an important time for people to take advantage of these opportunities. And another nice thing about these opportunities, such as Ancestry Health, is that they are available in that remote realm. So you decide that you're going to take this action. You go online, you fill out some information about your health and your family's health, and then you just spit into a tube. And from the saliva, we can extract plenty of DNA that is analyzed in a clinical laboratory for these health risks. So again, you're taking the initiative, but you're being able to do it in this telemedicine way, which is also just a great way to deal with, the environment that we're in now.
Yeah, I mean, particularly this year, we're navigating the fight against COVID-19. So what you're telling me is that Ancestry Health, powered by NGS, which I want to go into a little more, but it looks at more places in a person's DNA than microarray-based testing technology. Is that right?
Yes, that's a great way of putting it. So there are other consumer genetic testing products on the market, but one way in which Ancestry Health is differentiated is through this more advanced sequencing technology, next generation sequencing. It looks at your genome and it looks at a more in-depth and comprehensive review of the genetic markers that we know are associated with some top-of-mind health conditions, such as cancer, cardiovascular conditions, such as like blood clotting or high cholesterol or heart defects. And so by having a more comprehensive review of the DNA, if there's a risk, we're more likely to identify it with next-generation sequencing. So if a risk is identified, we're more likely to find it. But the converse of that is if a risk is not identified, it is a little bit more likely that the risk was not there. I do want to say, though, that not all health is genetics. So we're not looking at this as we're going to be able to rule out a cancer risk or a cardio risk, because there are, of course, still some non-genetic factors, as well as some genetics that science doesn't yet fully understand. But this is a way to take an opportunity to say, I am willing to understand my risk. I know that this knowledge is power, and I know that with this knowledge, I can take action. So this isn't just like, oh, now I've got one more thing to worry about. In some ways, it's one less thing to worry about, because if you know the risks, you can take the actions.
Well, a recent study conducted by Ancestry found that 86% of Americans agree that the more they know about their family, the more reassured they are in their ability to give health providers information to keep themselves and their family well. And I think it's 82% of Americans also believe the more they know about their family health history, the greater control they can take in shaping a plan for their family's long-term wellness. So really, I mean, when you look at all of this, it all makes a lot of sense, Sarah.
It absolutely does. And I also want to emphasize that it's great if you have that family information. It does empower you. But sometimes people don't know something about their family. They maybe have some missing links. Maybe they're adopted, or maybe it was just a taboo topic where people didn't talk about what their grandparents had for health issues. And so looking directly at your own DNA is another way that you can identify things that may be running through your family that you don't know about through those conversations. So I think of this as kind of a combination package where the conversations with your family are important, but looking directly at your own DNA is a complementary and also important way of identifying those risks so that you can be empowered.
So tell me, how does next generation sequencing work? I mean, as a mom yourself, how do you think Ancestry Health is empowering moms, especially during this unprecedented back-to-school season?
Yeah, so it's a really pretty simple thing for the individual. So they can go to ancestry.com/health, where they can learn about this particular test, what conditions are covered. So I mentioned there's some top of mind things around cancer and cardio. There's a few other things there as well. So they can learn about the conditions that are covered. They decide if this is something they're interested in. And again, it's made for everybody. If a risk is identified, you'll be empowered to take action. If a risk is not identified, you'll still be clued into the things that you can do from a diet and exercise point of view to manage, because everybody has some level of risk. Even if there's not genetic risk, there's still environmental factors.
Yeah, of course.
So you learn about it there. If you decide to take the next step, you just order the kit. It comes to you through the mail. You spit in this tube. You answer some questions online. A physician ensures that this is right for you. It's still done within the supportive healthcare ecosystem. It's just done through a more telemedicine type thing, which we're becoming a lot more comfortable with the way that we've been doing a lot of our COVID care. The physician looks at the answers, ensures it's appropriate for you, orders the test on your behalf. You simply mail it back in. A clinical laboratory, then runs the next generation sequencing. So it's done with the same level of care as all of the clinical tests that a physician orders. The laboratory reviews the DNA for specific genetic health risk markers and releases a report. There's two levels to this report that's going to come back to you. One level is designed for you so that it's got the information that you need to know written at a level that's tested to make sure that you understand it. And then within it, there's also a report for your physician. And we did this because we wanted to make sure that, your questions were answered, but also your physician's questions are answered. And they can sometimes come at two different levels. As we know, sometimes our physicians are, very limited in the time that they have to say, what's this piece of information that my patient is bringing to me? So the physician report is a pretty quick, couple page document that just says, here's what was tested, here's what was found, here's medical society recommendations. So they're professional medical society recommendations on next steps.
Wow,
Whereas
it's amazing.
The customer's report, is a little bit longer. But again, it's still, easy to go through, but it's got more graphics, it's got more pullouts, because we know that you're going to dig in a little bit more. And then if you still have questions, included in all of this is access to a genetic counselor that you can also do through a one-on-one telemedicine session.
Now, what does that cost?
It's no additional charge. It's all included within Ancestry Health.
Very good.
Yeah, because we want to make sure that you feel like you understand this, you know your next steps, and that genetic counselor can answer the questions and make sure that you've got the resources.
Well, this is amazing. I mean, folks, this isn't some clerk we're talking to here or marketing director from Ancestry, that you see on .com and finding out where your great ever came from and all that. This lady received her Ph.D. from the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in human genetics, and her doctorate provided broad training in human genetics with a research focus on the genetics of peroxisol by Genesis disorders. I think I got away with that one, but still, it sounds very complicated. So listen, where am I going to go to find all this out? What do I do?
You go to ancestry.com/health. Not only will you learn about what we've been talking about just now, which is the genetic testing health product, but we also talked a little bit about COVID today. And I wanted to make sure your readers knew that Ancestry is also committed to helping understand both the genetic and non-genetic factors that play into COVID susceptibility and severity. And so if your listeners are interested and they're already an Ancestry customer, they can volunteer to sign up to be part of that study. They just answer some questions about their own COVID experience, whether or not they've had COVID, not had COVID, any symptoms. And then again, with their permission, that those answers are matched in a de-identified way to their DNA data so that we can look for both, again, are there genetic factors that make an individual more susceptible or make the condition more severe? And we already know about some non-genetic factors such as age and gender.
Well, you know what, Sarah, I got to tell you, while you were talking then, this vision popped into my mind of down the track, we'll probably be gone, but you never know. Science is very quick these days. You'll go into a place like a clinic and you'll press a button. They'll go back on Ancestry on you. And they'll figure out which DNA to cut out to ensure that you stop the running, or that you don't get the cancer from great-great-uncle, or you don't get the, pulmonary venosis, whatever, from the great-great-uncle or something. Do you ever see that coming?
It does sound a little bit Star Trek-y, but there's certainly people that are working on ways to edit DNA. We're not really there yet. It's still kind of in a research realm, but we are at the point of understanding things that we can still do to prevent. So I'll give a quick example on myself.
All right.
Through Ancestry Health, I learned that I have an increased risk to develop blood clots. But I also learned that there are factors that add more risk on top of my genetics. So, for example, there are certain medications that if I take in addition to my genetics, further increase my risk for blood clots. Things like smoking, things like inactivity also add on more and more risk.
Well, there you go.
So knowing that I have the genetic predisposition, I can use that as a motivation to make sure I don't add on those environmental things. So there are medications that I avoid.
Right.
Exactly.
It's like a guideline, isn't it? It's like a little bit of a guideline through life for you,
Yep.
That's
right now,
terrific.
I can't change my genetics, but I can use that as power to change my behavior and to make sure that I do my appropriate screenings.
Oh, that's great. Well, folks, it'll be on the site. She'll be there permanently with her picture that she's going to send me. And all about Sarah South, Ph.D., served as Vice President of Laboratory Sciences at AncestryDNA, LLC. And this is back since August 2016. And she's had previous positions as Vice President with Clinical Laboratory Operations at 23andMe. I remember that one. Associate Professor in the Department of Pathology at the University of Utah, Medical Director at ARUP Laboratories, and Laboratory Director at Lineagen. So a very experienced lady, knows what the devil she's talking about, and you can read all about this again. Give us one more time before you go, the website address.
It's ancestry.com/health.
/health. That's pretty simple. Ancestry.com/health. All right, thank you very much, Sarah. Wonderful information there, and I like what you're doing. Have a great week, okay?
Thank you, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
All right, goodbye now.
Bye.